asking more.
From sea to shining sea throughout the solar system and extending to interstellar regions beyond. This is the Kevin Smith Show. Talk radio like nowhere else on Earth.
Comments and views expressed on The Kevin Smith Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the views of Kevin Smith, The Kevin Smith Show, or its affiliates or sponsors.
Hi folks, and welcome to the Kevin Smith Show. Whoever you are, wherever you happen to be all around this planet, thank you for being here at the Kevin Smith Show. Well, this is a big day here in the USA. It's a big night here. It's election night. They're beginning to report the vote counts. And, every 4 years we go through this ordeal here, and so a lot of people are glued to their TV sets or their radios or whatever means of communication they prefer, trying to keep up with who is winning. And the sad thing about it is somebody will. If you are not yet subscribed to our free weekly newsletter, why not? I mean, it's free and it's a good one. It's always got, lots of articles about things within our genre, links to videos to watch, audience feedback, inside information, what's happening here at the Kevin Smith Show, and it's free. Absolutely, and no strings attached. And all you have to do to be getting it is to subscribe and then activate your subscription. You'll get an email that's got a link in it for you to click, and that activates your subscription. That way we know for sure it was you that subscribed and not someone playing a joke on you and using your email address to subscribe to stuff. So we won't spam anybody that way. We also we don't let anybody else use our email addresses, our mailing list. And so you're not going to be spammed as a result of subscribing. Be sure you do. It's a good newsletter. It's been around for as long as the show has. And we have people who are subscribed now who subscribed way back in 2000 when we began. So it must be pretty good. We'd love to see you in that family of subscribers. Are you outside the USA and outside of Canada? A whole lot of our audience is. And the way you communicate with us during the show is you can, when we open up the phone lines, you can call us or use the flash message feature on our website. And we've been going through fixing some really pernicious problems that we have had with a computer, and the flash message feature stopped working as a result of those problems. Well, we've got that fixed now. So that tonight, if you wish to participate in the show and you're not in the USA or Canada, you can use the flash message option again. It's working again. So that's not a problem. Also, let me say to our members, I know some of you never read the announcements for them, but for those of you who do, you know that I've been posting updates about what's going on with the K-Pods. Well, I think I have found a solution. And we're going to give it a try. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed, you should have some K-Pods coming up available in the morning. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Hey guys, Scott here. I'm a fan of the Kevin Smith Show for some very good reasons. First off, he's been all over the world and has a lot of knowledge and experience. Second, he's always very objective. Third, he's got the best guests and the hottest topics of all the talk shows out there. Then finally, the hat. I know when I see that magic hat, I'm about to watch the Harry Potter of talk shows, join the members community, and enter a whole new universe.
You know, one of the things you can always count on is I'm always thinking about how to have a better show. I have some pretty good ideas, but I don't have them all. I depend on you. Send me your suggestions for topics and guests. Welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show. For all the rest of America, it's election night, but we're not going to deal with any of that here because we're focused on the world of the strange and the unexplained. The world of the strange and unexplained contains all kinds of phenomena. It contains all kinds of explanations and speculations and testimonies and observations. And so sometimes people, have a difficult time when they first come into the genre, opening their mind up to the point where they can say, okay, well, the phenomena exist. That's not questionable. The phenomena exists. But all of the explanations and speculations are just that. They are speculative. And sometimes what people want when they get here to this genre is for someone to say, this is the truth. And look, there's no shortage of shows that will do that. However, this is not one. Because I'm smart enough to know the difference between a belief and a fact. And so, the reason I'm saying this is because we're going to deal with the ECTI ranch tonight, and we're going to talk about some pretty interesting things that have been observed, but also that something very interesting that's just been discovered. And there will be a lot of speculation about this discovery. And speculation's okay. Speculation is fine. That is exactly how we move forward in the absence of hard data. That's how we can move forward one little millimeter at a time, sometimes like a snail crawling, but we move forward toward getting answers, real answers to our questions. And you will hear me talk tonight about extraterrestrials. And you'll hear me question whether they are extraterrestrial, these particular ones, or whether they are terrestrial and simply a species that has been heretofore unknown to us. And if you're new, you might be tempted to say, well, that guy doesn't even think extraterrestrials exist, simply because I bring up possibilities that this particular group might not be. Don't make the mistake of thinking that because I bring up a possibility, I think it's correct. I simply bring it up so we can talk about it. All right? Now, why am I doing this preface? Well, the reason I'm doing this preface to tonight's show is because the ECTI ranch is the high temple of the religion of some people. For some people, there's no functional difference between the ECTI ranch and for them and what the Vatican would be for a devout Catholic. For some people, it has become a religion. Now, I don't think that it's because of the guy in charge of the ECTI ranch. I don't think so. I haven't met him personally, but I've had him as a guest a couple of times on the show, and I've talked with him at length before and after the shows. And I've read things that he's written. I've watched videos that he's produced, and he certainly does not seem to be emanating that aura of, this is something religious. But there are people who have been to this ranch who have had profound experiences with a phenomenon or with multiple phenomena, and who come away with a very religious kind of devotion about the ECTI Ranch and about what happened to them there. And because of that, with religion, anytime you even question something that somebody so strongly believes, they get very emotional. So this preface is for those who are new to the genre, and it's also for those who have gone religious about the ECTI Ranch. Because when I bring up possibilities, if that's not what you've come to believe, and you're one of the ECTI religionists, then you're going to be upset. So open your mind to the difference between what is a belief and what is knowledge, what's a fact. Okay? The ECTI Ranch, well, it's located in, well, let me just give you a picture from the ECTI Ranch. And that mountain in the distance back there, if you're watching our TV channel, is Mount Adams. Lewis and Clark saw this mountain and incorrectly identified it as Mount St. Helens, which they had heard about from previous explorers. They saw this mountain and thought it was Mount St. Helens. But this is the one they saw. And it is Mount Adams. And it's located just north of a place called Trout Lake. So if you're watching, you see a map that's in Washington State, and there's a little town called Trout Lake, and I have a red arrow pointing at it, and then almost due north of there, approximately 12 to 15 miles north, is Mount Adams. All right, the guy that I was talking about who's in charge of all of that is James Gilliland. Now, ECTI, it's E-C-E-T-I-E. I'm sorry, ECETI Ranch, ECTI Ranch, stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. James Gilliland is the guy who is in charge of all of that. And I first began hearing about James Gilliland pardon me, the allergies took over before I could hit the mic button. I normally turn the mic off when I have to cough. I just wasn't quick enough on the trigger that time. Okay, so James Gilliland, I first began hearing about him when I began hearing him. I began to hear him, to the best of my memory, it was on the Art Bell show, back when Art Bell was doing his show nightly. I began hearing James Gilliland. And now, my memory may be incorrect, but I believe that's the first time that I heard about him, was when I heard him. And what impressed me about him, he told about all this UFO phenomena taking place over his ranch. And what impressed me was that he said, look, we're not asking anybody to believe this. If you have any doubts and it's something you really want to check out, come out to the ranch. Just come on out and watch the skies for yourself. Well, I thought, you know what, that's about as open-ended and honest as a guy could be. And people began to go out there and come back with fantastic reports of encounters with UFOs And I think some have had encounters with extraterrestrials. But this was years ago, and now this is sort of a almost a place of pilgrimage where there are people that go there, and they go every year, and or they try to make it every year, and they watch the skies, they meet other people who are there for the same thing, and they come away. Look, some of these are some of the top scientists in the United States. So these are not, kooky fringe people. Some of these are really, honest to God, some of the top scientists in this country have been there. And they come away saying, yeah, don't know what it is, but these things are flying in the sky. And they report various experiences with them. One of them, of course, is Dr. Brooks Agnew, who's been a guest here on the show. A number of our members here, we have a members community, and a number of our members in the members community have been out to the ECTI Ridge at least once. And they come back and talk about the experiences that they have had at ECTI. And some of those experiences are very, very, I would say, mild in terms of intensity, in that, they just report, well, yeah, we saw UFOs. We saw them. Some people have a very intense encounter. Dr. Brooks Agnew has told on this show, and I think on his show, of being hit with a beam of light from one of these ships and being just getting a download of information. Lots and lots of information. Some people come back and they report that they had almost a mystical, high spiritual experience. And but almost everybody that goes comes back and reports that indeed something very weird, something very strange is going on right there at the ECTI Ranch. So ECTI stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That's what it stands for, ECTI. And James Gilliland is the guy in charge of all that. It's his place. And he has opened it up for people to come there and experience all that for themselves. Now, I want to say this again. I want to underscore. James Gilliland, to the best of my knowledge, has not turned this into anything, like a religion. There are people who have decided things and turned those beliefs, they've decided certain beliefs, well, they believe it's this way, they believe it's that way, and they've turned those beliefs into something so powerful that for them, that serves as a fact, when in fact it's a belief. But James Gilliland does not promote that. I don't think he does. My couple of experiences with him tell me that he's very level-headed, and he just says, look, these things are happening, and there are a lot of things that we don't have answers to. We have lots of questions. We don't have answers to it all. But these things are happening out there. So now, kind of having set the stage, I know that I'm speaking now to a great many people who have been to the ECTI Ranch. And just because you've been there doesn't mean that I'm talking about you when I talk about people who have made it religious. But I have dealt with, on the telephone and email, some people who have, and that's unfortunate, because once you fill in the blanks with a belief, you quit looking for the truth. You accept the belief, and so it's unfortunate. One of the things that people talk about when they see all these UFOs, and I've had people do this right here on the show, they talk about that it appears that the UFOs come out of the side of that mountain, and they fly out across the field, and people see them, and and then sometimes, often, they return to the side of that mountain. So it looks like they're coming right out of the mountain. It looks like they're flying right back into the mountain. Up until recently, no one except people that I've talked to who have been at ECTI and one other individual, Jeff Woolline, have talked on this show about UFOs flying out of a mountain and flying back into the mountain. Jeff Woolline, of course, is the guy out in the Phoenix, Arizona area, or he used to be. He's in Tucson now. But he used to be in Phoenix, and South Mountain was sort of his patrol area, where he did his UFO investigations. Mainly. It's not the only place, but that was mainly his beat. And Jeff has been on the show talking about watching UFOs fly out of the mountain, not just from the direction of the mountain. They look like they come right out of the mountain, and he has seen them fly right back into the mountain. So Jeff Woolline has talked about it on this show, and we have had people who have called the show here and had been to ECTI, and they have talked about seeing that happen at ECTI. And so just those two places. But I have one more witness that told me that he had seen this happen, and he used to be the producer of this show. We'll be back.
Whatever you do, have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Muchas gracias. Hello, this is Brent from Wyoming, and you are listening to The Kevin Smith Show. Talk radio like nowhere else on earth.
You don't know why.
Welcome back to The Kevin Smith Show. We're talking about the ECTI Ranch and the phenomena, the strange phenomena, the very strange phenomena that takes place there at the ECTI Ranch. And I said there was one more person that I have talked to personally who told me about the UFOs flying into the side of a mountain. But it wasn't South Mountain. It was not Mount Adams. It was some mountains not far from South Mountain. It's called the Australia Mountains, which in Spanish, of course, Australia means stars. And former producer of this show, John Edmonds, he and his wife both together described seeing UFOs fly right into, he said it looked like they went right into the side of the mountain. And in a little bit, you'd see them come out the other side. So I've heard about this before, and people from ECTI, people who have been there, talk about that happening. Well, there's someone else I want to introduce to you. You may or may not know the name Scott C. Waring. Scott C. Waring has an excellent website. It's called UFO Sightings Daily. And it's one of the sites that I daily check. He very often has information and photographs that are of great interest to me, and once in a while they make it to the show. This is one of those once in a whiles, but I want you to know the name Scott C. Waring. And he's got the information that we're going to talk about tonight on his website. It's where I was introduced to this. And he's got a video that's up on YouTube as well about all of this. So you want to check that out. Scott C. Waring, W-A-R-I-N-G. Scott started thinking like a detective, like an investigator, and he said, well, all these people that go to ECTI say they see UFOs come out of the side of the mountain very often, and from time to time they see them return, and it looks like they go into the mountain. So let's take a look at the mountain and see what we can see. So Scott went online and he found a map from the USGS. This is it's a map done by satellite photos. Now I want to go back to the other map for just a moment and mention that where I have the red arrow pointing on this map at Trout Lake, it's pointing there because the ECTI Ranch is just outside of Trout Lake. And so in that general area of Trout Lake, you have the ECTI Ranch, and then you're looking north, you're looking at Mount Adams. And so Scott said, okay, so let's look at Mount Adams. When you look at this mountain has a flat top on it. And sometimes people who are flying, tourists who are flying, that fly over this, and they've read about the mountains in the area, mistake this for Mount Rainier, because it also has a flat top. But this one has a flat top on it. Now, those who are watching by television, now you see an arrow, and it has a label, and it says ECTI Ranch, approximately 15 miles. It does not mean that the ECTI Ranch is located at the end of that arrow. that arrow is pointing in a direction. So about 15 miles in that direction, 12 to 15 miles, you have the ECTI Ranch. So what he did is he decided to take a look at this mountain, and the picture that I had on the screen is now the one that's in the upper left-hand corner. We have 3 pictures here, and we're going to zoom in and take a look. Again, the source of this photograph is UFOsightingsdaily.com. So go over there and check this out. And the video is there too. You can watch the video. It's excellent. All right, so when you look down on the top of this mountain, you don't see anything remarkable except it's got that flat top. Now, if you will look at the picture in the upper right corner, there are 3 pictures here. So look at the picture in the upper right corner, and you see a red arrow. And what he's doing, he's showing you, in all 3 of these pictures, we're looking at the same spot. So in the upper left-hand corner, you have a red arrow. Now in the picture to the right, in the upper right corner, it's the end of that red arrow, but same place, but it's been zoomed in a little bit. And the picture at the bottom, it's zoomed in a lot. Now what Scott says, and we're going to zoom in, we're going to take a look at all that, but what Scott says in his video is he was looking for any irregularities, any just weird stuff on this mountain. People don't say they see the UFOs coming out of the top of the mountain. They say they see them coming out of the side of the mountain. And so if you look at where he's got the red arrow, it's just below the top, on the side, facing the direction that ECTI Ranch would be able to see. So now let's zoom in on that. And he said, I was just looking for any irregularities. So we can see the area now that we're going to look at. You see the flat top. You can see that the red arrow ends at just below that flat top. All right, he's looking for irregularities, and he zooms in, and what he finds is an area of it looks like snow or ice. However, what's strange about this is how this particular area, and it's a big area, the snow and ice is in a pattern not like the rest of the snow and ice around it, but it's a different pattern, and really a kind of a strange pattern, and it's out of focus. So let's zoom in some more. Now notice that everything outside of that red circle is much more in focus than what's in the red circle. What's in that red circle is more blurry, more diffused, more out of focus. This is not a patch that's been placed on the picture. It's organically part of the picture. So this is not a Photoshop blur. But there is something under the surface there, according to Scott Waring, this is his theory, there is something under the surface that's generating a field that caused the satellite camera to be a bit blurry on that one spot. Now, let's remember that that one spot is a very tiny spot to the camera on the satellite. It's a tiny spot. Now, what we did is we zoomed in so that we can see what's in that spot. And what we see is a blurry area. It's just a little bit hazy, a little bit blurry compared to its surroundings. Now, Scott has, in his video, he's of the opinion that what you're looking at right there is an obscured opening into the mountain. And that is the opening to an alien base. I'm really not so sure that's the case. I think he's found something. I think he's found something quite phenomenal and interesting. And when you watch that video and listen to his explanation of everything, and you watch as he zooms in, you will see that it does appear to be pretty phenomenal. But I'm not sure that he might be correct, but I'm not sure that he's correct about that being the opening. I think there's something there that's creating, remember these cameras are digital. There's something there that is creating a disturbance that the camera could not handle, could not keep in focus. Is it natural, or is it the alien base? Well, if Scott is not correct, and he might be, but if he's not, about that being the opening into the alien base, and that it's just being obscured by whatever energy fields, if he's not correct about that, then is there an opening nearby? Could that be some sort of power, some sort of energy coming out of this alien base that's causing the disturbance in the camera? Could that part be correct, but the opening into that base, if that's a base, be located somewhere else? Well, I think the answer to that is yes. All right, so let's see where that might be. So let's get our bearings once again with this zoomed out photograph, and here we go. Look at this, folks. Just look at this. Just to the west, and I mean just to the west of this area where it's disturbed and where it looks out of focus, just to the west of it, and I would have to say only a few feet to the west, it drops off like a cliff. It drops into a crevasse, and there's a big hole in the side of the mountain with a square cutout in front of it. Now, the square cutout, when I say a square cutout in front of it, think of that as the front porch. Okay, I'm not saying that's what it is, but just think of it as the front porch, and this big hole in the side of the cliff as the front door. And that is apparently large enough, if that is the opening into a base. And it enters right in under this anomaly that Scott has found. If that is the opening to a base, it's large enough for craft to go in and out of there. And what the heck, up on the side of the mountain in a crevasse, what the heck is there doing a square cutout that appears to be full of liquid water? All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. And welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show and our discussion this evening of the ECTI Ranch and asking the question, has the secret been discovered? The secret being, where do these things come from? Where are they coming from? These UFOs that everybody sees out at the ranch, and virtually everybody that goes out there sees UFOs. Including some of the most respected, credentialed, eminent scientists in this country have been there and seen them. Don't know what they are. They shake their heads and walk away, but, they see them. Well, has the secret been discovered? The secret of where these things are coming from? Now, let's review quickly what we've looked at, and then I have a question about this. I told you it would be challenging for those who are new to this genre. It'll be challenging for those who are religious about the ECTI Ranch. So let's review just a moment what we've looked at. We've looked at Mount Adams from the sky, from space, and we've zoomed in to take a look at a particular region of Mount Adams, and the particular region that we're going to look at is just below the top. It's not at the top, it's just below the top. And the top, by the way, that flat top, has a very odd shape to it as well, don't you think? And then what we've done is we've zoomed in on that one area and discovered there is, in fact, an anomaly there, a strange shape there. And if you notice, the shape of this, let me try to describe this for those who are listening. This is a very large, it's tiny when you look at it from space, but on the ground this would be a very large area to traverse. And in the center of what we're talking about, there is a teardrop shape. And then there are waves around it. By waves, I mean, if you think of a teardrop moving through the air, pushing air, or moving through the water, pushing the water, so that the point of the teardrop is at the back, then you would have bow shock waves that spread around the edges of the teardrop and trail to the rear. And that's what this looks like. In the center of the teardrop, there is something shaped sort of like a shield. You know, like a cop's badge. Now, all of this is formation on the ground. It's all white because it's covered with snow and ice. But just to the left of that teardrop, it drops into a crevasse, and what's in that crevasse that we can see is a big opening into the side of the wall of the crevasse. A big opening that goes right in under the teardrop. Directly in front of that opening, there is a square area. I mean, it's so square it looks like it's been cut out of there. That's what it looks like. And it appears to be full of water. Liquid water. Now, let's zoom out just a little bit and kind of catch the whole scene. So is that a secret base out of which these UFOs are coming to the ECTI ranch? I'm not saying it is. Scott Waring, I think, expresses that he thinks it may be. I'm not saying that that's what this is. It certainly is very anomalous in its appearance. The whole thing. I mean, that teardrop thing and the bow shock waves around it, and then that square area right in front of what appears to be a huge, well, it doesn't appear to be, it is a huge opening into the wall of the crevasse. Don't know what's in there, don't know how far back that goes, but it enters in right under that teardrop. That whole scene is very anomalous. And see, you don't have to leave Earth and go to Mars. You don't have to leave Earth and go to the Moon or Venus or anywhere else to find these anomalies. They're all over this Earth. We live on a weird planet, folks. And there are anomalies all over this planet. But here's the question. If that is the base from which these UFOs are coming, if that's what that is, then the question is, are they extraterrestrial? So, are they extraterrestrial? You understand, extra means apart from, and terrestrial means terra, that's the name of this planet, terrestrial, from this planet, extra from this planet, apart from being on this planet, so, or from this planet. So have they come here from somewhere else, and this is like their colony up in there? Or is it possible that what we're looking at is one of the entry and exit, ingress and egress ports for some inner Earth civilization that are terrestrial, but they are inner terrestrial? Now, if you're new to this genre, you're chuckling now and you're saying, oh, come on, people living inside the Earth, that's nuts. You think. Well, you know, there are stories about this that go back further than written history. In addition to that, there are some pretty eminent scientists who have said they think that's a very real possibility. I don't know whether it is. I don't know whether it's a fact or not. But, you know, when you've got some eminent scientists saying it's a possibility that there is an inner Earth civilization, and when you've got stories in virtually every culture that go back further than written history that talk about these things, you got to ask yourself, were all of these people smoking left-handed cigarettes? There might be something to this. Now, the question about this location, the question that I have about this location, well, I've got several, like, what is that? That is just one of the most phenomenal, weird places on this planet that I have seen. I mean, it really is strange. You might could kind of overlook that teardrop thing and say, well, yeah, it's weird, but nature does weird stuff. That's what debunkers usually will say about stuff like this. But then put it together with that square, and I mean that is cut out of stone square. And it looks like a reservoir of water. Put it together with that. Right at the cave entrance there. Now, when you put all of it together, you're looking at one of the weirdest things on the planet. So, if that is where these UFOs are coming from, if that's where they're coming from, and flying out where the people at ECTI Ranch can see them, if that's where they're coming from, are they extraterrestrial? Did they come here from some other place in the universe, and this is just their colony, if you will, their base? Is that the case? Or are these interterrestrial beings actually terrestrial, originating right here on this planet? Now, some of the craft that people have seen at ECTI look like vehicles. They look like craft. Some of them look like a great big ball of plasma. And some of them, they call them light ships. It's a great big ball of light. And they've got some pretty interesting pictures of these things over at the ECTI.org. I think that's right. Well, look it up on the search engines, ECTI. But on their website, they've got some pretty good pictures of these things, and it's some weird stuff. So are they extraterrestrial or are they interterrestrial? We'll be back with open phone lines right after this.
Hi, I'm Andy and I have one big question. Why does the older generation try to keep so many secrets from us? You think we're stupid? You think we can't think for ourselves? You think we can't see through the scams? But there is one old guy that we love. His name is Kevin Smith. Even my generation has to run to keep up with his thinking, and he never tries to scam us. He tells it like it is. That's why I love the Kevin Smith Show. It's always free to listen, so join today and get it all. This is one old guy you've got to hear.
Never stops, and the information never stops. There's always something new, important, and exciting happening somewhere around this planet. So long as the world never stops and the information never stops, I'll never stop.
Hola, hello, hi there. How you doing? Whatever you do, have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Muchas gracias.
All right, welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show and this discussion of the ECTI Ranch and a discovery made by Scott C. Waring. I think he's done a great job with this. And even if it's not the base from which these UFOs originate, even if it's not, he has discovered a really strange, weird anomaly right there on Mount Adams. Someone has done some construction there, and it doesn't look like it's anything recent. All right, the telephone lines are open, and the telephone number is 623-444-5889. The flash message option is open as well for those who are not in the USA or Canada. You can call us or flash message us. It is working tonight. All right, caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Oh, hi, Kevin. It's Heidi from Manitoba calling.
I was really hoping you would call, Heidi. How are you?
I'm doing great tonight.
Good.
I'm enjoying your show, and you know, I've been to the ECTI Ranch twice now, and I've had great experiences both times. And so when you put those pictures up there, looking at them closely, it also looks like there's some large steps leading out from where the crevice is and going up. If you put the picture back up there, you will see right at the, if you go to where the crevice is, if you go to where the crevice is and you, I need one that's enlarged. Anyways, at where that rocky, like that rocky part, where that rocky part is, if you look at the base, you can see what looks like 3 lines like steps going up, and then if you go up another ½ inch from that, there's a rectangle right where you see where you've got your dotted line. It goes right through a rectangle that also look like some steps there, and then maybe further steps possibly going further on into the circle part below. Do you see that?
Yeah. It's weird. I don't know what this thing is, but would you agree with me, especially when you look at that rectangle that looks like it's full of water right in front of the cave? Would you agree that does not look natural?
Yeah, there's, as you have pointed out, there are a number of things there that don't look natural. And even when you look at the shadow made by the rocky sort of, how would you describe, sort of little rocky structure there, and you look at the shadow, look at how precise that shadow is. It's well defined, and then when you look off into the center and you see the distortion, like it's the contrast is really quite remarkable, I think.
Yeah, what do you think accounts for that distortion?
Oh, something to do with energy. Maybe there's like just the way that it's being pulled. It looks like something almost being pulled out of it. Something is coming out of it. So maybe it's sort of a vortex of energy being pulled out, that it's going outwards.
It is odd. It's just so odd. And, you know, that teardrop shape, do you see that?
Yeah.
And then right in the center of it, it's shaped like a policeman's badge.
Yeah, no, I wonder. It's really quite remarkable. Obviously, there does look like there is something there, definitely, and something that I guess whoever is responsible for that never suspected that it would be seen and picked up by satellite and picked up by that person who happened to notice this and notified you. But it's really quite incredible.
Yeah. Now I want to give Scott Waring all the credit here. He actually did not notify me. I check his website, and this is on his website today. Now, the picture that he started with is the picture that's on your screen now.
Okay.
Now, can you imagine out of this that he was able to find this incredible anomaly?
Yeah.
I mean, my eye sees nothing. I'm looking at the top of Mount Adams here, and the top of it has a weird shape.
Yeah, it looks like the face on. Well, it reminded me of the face on Mars.
Yeah, if you kind of back your eye away from it and kind of take in the whole picture, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about that flat area right up on the top. It looks like it's got a crossbar at the top and a crossbar at the bottom, like a capital I.
Yeah. When I look at that, it reminds me of a nose, like sort of similar in some respects to the face on Mars, but maybe it's meant to be seen from further away.
Well, now let me ask you, since you've been to the ECTI Ranch a couple of times, you've called in and talked with us about that, but not everybody that's listening now will have heard those previous calls. So let me ask you, have you seen UFOs there?
Yes, I did the first time that I went. My second time was just in June of this year, 2012, but I went in 2011, and one night when we were out doing the sky watches, I was out there in the fields, and I did see what started off, it was just this bright glowing ball of light, and then even with the naked eye you could see it change shape, and it started to the ball of light went up sort of into a poke up into the air, then it went back into a ball, and then from that it changed shape and it looked like a giant jellyfish with tentacles of light from behind, and it was visible with the naked eye. It was quite large. Everybody saw it out there in the field. And then one of the guys there, he had the military grade night vision equipment, and he handed me his binoculars there, and then you could really, really see it, and it was really quite incredible. That has been the only thing that I have seen in terms of a UFO.
Now, was it approaching? Was it coming from the direction of that mountain?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't coming from the direction there. Who knows, it might have, no, it wasn't coming from the direction there, no.
You know what you just described? The giant jellyfish?
Yeah?
Take a look at this teardrop area again. Did it look something like that?
Oh, well, isn't that interesting? Now you see the in the sense that it was like tentacles of light behind it. So somewhat, but I wouldn't say it wouldn't be the same.
Okay.
But there's a similarity in the sense that yes, because this sort of has that as a central nucleus, and then what's going away from it. Yeah, but interesting thought.
Well, I just wonder if that strange design sort of marks the species that lives there. You know, it's kind of like their address on the curb.
Well,
I wonder.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of different stuff that, quote, lives out there. You know, not all of it here, and maybe stuff at least suggesting to me that would be more of an elemental plane, not necessarily from beyond this, world here, but something within our own world, but more of an elemental type of being.
So, not necessarily interterrestrial either, but elemental.
Elemental, yeah. Yeah, it's...
Do you think it's intelligent?
Say Say that again, please?
Do you think it's intelligent?
Oh, well, yeah, actually that leads to the second experience that I had this summer when I was there. And I was out, of course, camping with my tent, and this was on the second night, and here, like a lot of people, had been staying up quite late around the fireplace, and here this was around, about maybe 1:30 in the morning that I left the fireplace and went to bed, was asleep, and around 3 o'clock in the morning, suddenly I woke up and I was fully alert there, and as I'm lying in my sleeping bag, all of a sudden something comes rushing up to my tent right where my head is and starts snorting right by my head. And I was so shocked, and I was fully awake, and then I could hear footsteps walking all around the tent. And here, this went on for a while. I could still hear people at the fire, and I started banging on a pot with my flashlight because I thought, well, whatever, I can't imagine anyone coming around my tent. What is around my tent here? And then I started noticing what looked like lights, what I interpreted as maybe being a flashlight, someone trying to flash into the underflap of the tent that I had and trying to look in. And at least that's how I interpreted it to be. And so anyways, here I made all this ruckus, but hoping that someone would come, and nobody came. And then finally, after about 20 minutes of this going on, here I hear the person next to me, about 12 feet away, there was another tent with a couple there. And here I can hear the zipper being unopened, and this person is leaving the tent. And here I thought, oh, okay, somebody here, they've noticed I've been banging, but apparently she said she heard nothing. She was going, I guess, to go to the bathroom, and here she said she had heard me yelling, and she flashed her flashlight around the tent, but she says there was nothing there. And here, of course, now that wasn't the first time I saw a light flashing, but anyways, when we talked in the morning, and here I had asked James, because of this thing that was snorting around my tent, I asked him, I says, James, do you have any pigs on the ranch? And he says to me, he says, I wasn't anywhere near your tent last night. So then as it turned out that, like I had addressed this in the morning session when he had already started, and he says, yeah, if anybody has any questions about the ranch, ask them now. And that's when I asked them. And then as it came out, to make a long story short, here people had started to say that they had, that in past years, that trolls had been reported in the area. And so the question came up, well, gee, was that what I heard snorting around my tent at night, some sort of troll-like being? So then after that, we started leaving out cookies and different things to try and see, could we encourage this thing to come back again? So it ended up being really quite an interesting experience, a lot of fun. Whatever it was did not come back, but I did notice on the last morning, or second last morning before I left there, here the cookies, the stuff that we had left out, everything was gone. So I don't know what happened there, but it was an interesting experience. And some of the people were thinking that, well, maybe what I had encountered was something of an interdimensional nature that I could see, but other people could not. And even though they're shining the flashlight, they were not able to see what I was hearing around my tent. So, I don't know.
Okay, so you said that during that session, they said that people had reported seeing trolls in the area. Did they describe what these trolls look like? No, they did not. It was just simply another camper who, upon hearing my story, said that this is what she had heard from other people who had stayed at the ranch, that they had seen a troll in the area. And then, of course, the people who live on the ranch,
some of them started sharing some of their stories of encounters with what you'd maybe call elves or different sorts of things, what they had personally experienced and seen. So it seemed, with the snorting and everything, it kind of fit in with the trolls. We don't really know, but it was an interesting experience nonetheless.
Well, let's go back up to Mount Adams into this anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
This rectangular water pool does not appear to be in any way, shape, or form something that was formed by geology.
Mm-hmm.
It appears to have been carved out.
Mm-hmm.
Trolls would need water, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, and I had sort of gotten this impression when this came in that it was rushing in off of the field from where I was, and that it was I had come to a spot, maybe it was a spot, maybe my tent was perched where it would go into its own dimension, maybe its hole in the ground. Like, that was sort of the impression that I had. And now, of course, I never had known or read about, really looked into the whole thing of trolls prior to this. And so then I started actually researching it, and I did find that they said, yes, that there were some trolls who actually lived in the earth and that they burrowed in there. And the hunch that I had about it was actually something that had been reported, that the way that some trolls, types of mountain trolls, lived. So, I don't know.
All right. Well, Heidi, it's always fascinating to talk with you, and this has been fascinating as well. Let me ask you this. When you heard that coming up around your tent, were you scared?
At first, I was so shocked, and then I thought, okay, I'm just going to lie still here and see what happens next. Whatever's out there, I don't want it to know that I'm aware that it's right there, but it was snorting right where my head was, and I'm in a small tent. It sleeps. It says it sleeps but maybe 4 pygmies or something, because I can't see how it would be much more room in that tent than 2 maximum people. But it was right by my head, just an inch or 2 away from my head. So yeah, at first, I wasn't just, and I was trying to imagine, who on earth would be doing this, and I couldn't imagine any of the people attending the camp coming up and doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just one of those things that it sounded like someone or something with very heavy footprints walking around the tent, and it was at first that's why I started then banging on the pot with my flashlight, trying to attract attention, hoping to frighten off whatever this was. And then when no one came, then it was just or something. It was I felt, okay, well, I'll just sort of try this, surrounding myself with white light and calling in those who care about me to surround and to help me. And then after I'd done that, it was just sort of, okay, there's nothing here to worry about. Go back to sleep, and I did that. But this whole encounter lasted about 20 minutes.
Wow. Would you go back to the ECTI Ranch?
Oh, absolutely. It's a very interesting place to go.
And would you camp out like that again?
Oh, I would have it no other way. I've camped out both times, and I think that's the way. If you want to really experience the place, that's the way to do it. And after this had happened, I had so many people walking up into me and saying, wow, we would love to experience what you just did.
Not me.
And, how can we do this? How can we, create this? And lots of people were wondering, gee, wouldn't it be great if you could make contact with this troll net? Let's see if we can make it happen again. So it was more a thing of excitement, interest, and,
Have you ever heard of what curiosity did for the cat?
Well, yes, it killed it, but the cat had an interesting life.
And it sounds as if you do. Heidi, I want to thank you for the call. I have to move along, but thanks so much. Great call.
Okay.
All right.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, Kevin.
Wow. Well, there you go. There's somebody that's been to ECTI, and what strange experiences she's had. 623-444-5889. 623-444-5889 is the number to call. And as a matter of fact, we may have to rely upon our non-USA audience tonight for flash messages and for calls because the USA audience is probably intoxicated on the political liquor. Who's going to win? And I don't know what all the interest in that is because obviously somebody's going to win. But anyway, it's election night. But ECTI Ranch has been, I don't know, it's well documented from some circles. You might say that it's glorified, spoken of almost in beatific terms, religious type terms. Some circles, as they talk about it, they sort of vilify it, And over all these years, James Gilliland has continued to say, look, I'm not trying to get anybody to believe anything. These things are happening. People are seeing them. And if you want to see them, then you come to the ranch. You watch the sky and see whatever you see. And I think that's a fair challenge, don't you? Caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Hey, Kevin, this is Steve from Georgia.
Hi, Steve. You're not drunk on the political liquor?
No, I like my liquor either distilled or fermented, and both of those two guys need to be embalmed as far as I'm concerned, so I really don't care about them. However, what I do care about is what you've discovered here in this, your friend
Scott Waring
has discovered, and you've brought to our attention. This lends a lot of credence to the idea of the crypto-terrestrial. It's something that Mac Tunney's wrote about extensively. Did you know him, Kevin?
I had talked with Mac. Yeah, yes, I have talked with Mac. I never had Mac on the show. We never could get it scheduled. But,
I think it's tragic that he died so untimely, and he really seemed to be on something. And a lot of folks are very suspicious of the nature of his passing because he died so young, and there was really nothing wrong with him. That he died in his sleep or something. But anyway, I would also like to bring up to people who may be new to the genre of the crypto-terrestrial the work of Ferdinand Ossendowski, who was a very prominent physician from...
Okay, Steve, we have to take a break. So just hang on. We'll come right back to you after this break, all right?
Ever feel like there's a butt in your face? Well, get it out. Because that's what debunkers are. They're just butts in your face. And nobody wants a butt in their face. So, why don't you take care of those debunkers by sending them out? Because you are about to go on a fantastical journey with Kevin Smith. Coming right up.
Barrett Jones from the United States of America, and you're listening to The Kevin Smith Show, like no other talk radio on earth.
You don't know why.
And welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show, and we're talking about the ECTI Ranch and a pretty amazing discovery that Scott Waring made on Mount Adams, which is kind of the visual focal point of the ranch. I mean, it sticks up there. You can see it from everywhere on the ranch. And on the telephone with me is Steve from Georgia. Steve, the break cut you off in mid-sentence. You said that you're going to recommend somebody else's writings about crypto terrestrials.
Right. The author is Dr. Ferdinand Ossendowski, who was a student of Marie Curie, who was famous for discovering the properties of radiation. She studied radium and other things, and he became a physician in Russia, and because he participated in the early part of the revolution over there, when the revolution was co-opted by the Bolsheviks, he had to run for his life. And his escape took him across Siberia, down into Manchuria and Mongolia. And it was at that point he hooked up with a kind of a renegade outfit run by an escaped Russian officer who had gathered up an army of Mongolians and were resisting the Soviet movement into that part of the country. And while he was with them, he actually encountered crypto-terrestrials. They moved into an area where everything was very hushed, and the horses stopped, the Mongols stopped and fell on their faces, and of course the Europeans had absolutely no idea what was going on, and their Mongol guide explained to them that something's taking place and someone's coming up out of a hole in the ground over there, and you need to be respectful. And they encountered a leader from whatever civilization that is down in the Hollow Earth. He wrote extensively about it, and it was a very popular book in his day, but it didn't take long for that to be swept into the dustbin of history. One of those things where they put a black hole of silence over, Kevin, some of those things that you are so good at ferreting out. And now the reason I bring him up and link it with the crypto-terrestrials is Mount Adams, along with the other three mountains in the area, Mount Baker, Mount Rainier, and Mount St. Helens, they're all volcanoes. Mm-hmm. You know, Mount Adams is a volcano. Mm-hmm. It's thought to be an extinct volcano, but volcanoes have vents that go deep into the earth. And it's very, very likely to me, Kevin, just applying logic to the grammar that you've given us tonight, and by grammar I mean information. That's the basic meaning of grammar, is information. You've given us information. Applying logic to that, it's very plausible that vehicles and beings can come up out of Mount Adams through that opening that Scott Waring has discovered, and there may be many other openings there too that he hasn't discovered. And I think it would be an interesting experience for the more adventurous people to lurk around on Mount Adams and see what they can find. You know, I'm down here in Georgia. I think the next mountains I'll see is in North Georgia. You know, I'll probably never make it up there, but I think it would be a very interesting thing for Jerry Wills or someone else to go on up there and do some deep exploration.
Well, I tell you what, you send a guy like Jerry Wills up to this hole in the mountain, and he'll go in it.
I know he will.
And you know, listen. When I was a cop, I would get sent to calls where there was somebody with a gun, or there's a silent burglar alarm is going off in the middle of the nighttime. You get there, there's an open door, somebody's inside. That kind of thing, I mean, I'm very alert when I'm in a place like that, but it doesn't scare me. But going into a hole in the ground where there might be trolls, I'm not going.
Well, I hear you, Kevin. Now, I think the title of that book by Ossendowski, and I bring it up because I want your audience to explore and expand their knowledge base. You know, I bring up a lot of stuff, and it's not to show off my erudition or anything like that. I don't care about that. That's something I do, what I am. But I think the title of the book is Of Beasts, Gods, and Men, something to that effect. But if they'll look up Ferdinand Ossendowski, they'll find a link. That book is still out there, and it's definitely worth a read.
Can you spell his last name for us?
Ossendowski. Ossendowski.
I on the end. Okay, I've made a note. I'm going to check that out.
By all means.
Yeah. Well, you know, I said at the top of the show that, you know, stories about, you know, inner Earth and about beings living in the inner Earth, real beings, not imaginary mythological stuff, but real beings living in the Earth, go back further than recorded history. And, you know, if it was something that you just heard about as history began to be recorded, and they recorded some of the old folklore, if that's it and you heard no more, then you would have to say, okay, well, maybe it was just superstition. But these stories come right up into modern times, as you've just described with this Dr. Ossendowski. These stories of people seeing and having encounters with people from inner Earth. And of course, one of the most famous ones, and a lot of people say it's not true, a lot of people think it is true, is Admiral Byrd. You know, so
right, Lake Vostok.
Well, I don't know if it was at Vostok, but it was certainly somewhere near that area, and somewhere near the South Pole. But the thing is that these stories about what you're calling crypto-terrestrials come right up into modern times, where you have people reporting, you know, that they have had contact with them. And so I have to think that, you know, there's some possibility that those are real, genuine, factual stories.
Well, I do too, Kevin. There are too many running accounts of Bigfoot, of Yeti, of chupacabras, of you name it. You know, there are a lot of animals out there that we don't encounter on Main Street, but you know, they're out there in the boonies, and what we've become a civilization that doesn't go outside at night, and we don't go out in the country at night. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't go out, leave the cities, leave the towns, and go and camp. You know, I do that. You know, I'll go out and camp with Lori, or I'll camp with my son and granddaughter, and we'll go out and we'll camp. We'll spend the night. And you would be amazed, you know, if your listeners will go out and do that stuff, you know, at the things that they will experience. You know, and another thing, too, that smells like Limburger on our civilization is the people that really passed along these traditions of crypto-terrestrials and underground civilizations and hollow earth and so on were the shamanistic cultures. You know, and every time our Western-type civilization encountered these cultures, they did everything they could to wipe them out. You know, the American Indians had stories of it. Down in Latin America, South America, they have stories of this. I mean, they are a fundamental part of their myth and their identity. The Aborigines in Australia, you know, in Africa, it's just a very fundamental part of their worldview. You know, just as important to them as the religion of science is to us. You know, it's just that when we as a Western culture encountered people like this, we did everything we could to wipe them out and wipe out their memory, you know, and destroy what's left of their institutional memory until, you know, it can be forgotten. And to me, that smells of a global cover-up, huge cover-up that's been going on for centuries and centuries. And
You know, it's
that's
interesting.
certainly would draw
You
one's
said it's a
attention.
fundamental part of their myth and history. You know, the fundamental, most basic meaning of the word myth, which is not an English word, it's a Greek word, is history. And so a lot of stuff that people say, oh, that's just mythological, they're actually saying that's just historical, because that's what the word actually means. We misuse the word.
Oh, exactly. When I use the myth, the word myth, I'm using it the way Joseph Campbell would have used it, or Mircea Eliade, or John Lash. You know, the difference between myth and superstition or religion, let's say, a myth is a tradition that works. A religion is a tradition that doesn't.
Well, but myth, it's mythos, is history, is what it means. It means history, and it's usually applied to oral history, which, of course, is all history at some point turns to oral history, because there was a time before we were writing. So it's just history. And so I'm not nervous about things that are mythological. The only thing is, all history is made up by the victors.
Right.
So, you know, even once you get back into the oral history, you have to remember it's got that bias to it. It's you're learning that oral history from the people who won.
Very good point, Kevin. Very good point. Well, I'm going to get off, Kevin, and let some of these other politically minded people get on the phone and get with something that has some meaning to it. You know, that not this thing that we participated in earlier today.
Yeah. Well, okay, and thanks for the call.
Absolutely, Kevin.
All right. You know, I don't want anybody to think that I think that these elections are not important at all. They are in another realm and another sort of vibrational level, I guess. But they certainly are not important on this show. But we'd love to hear from you. We're talking about this ECTI wrench and Mount Adams, and the fact that Scott Waring has discovered a really amazing anomaly up on Mount Adams from the satellite photographs of Mount Adams. And this amazing anomaly has some properties to it that, I mean, it doesn't just look like just a geological formation. Imagine a teardrop moving through air or water with the pointed end of the teardrop at the back. And so it's moving, say, from right to left through water. Well, there's a bow shock, and waves form in front of it and swirl around to the sides and leave a trailing tentacle kind of wake behind it. And that's what we have on Mount Adams, but immediately to the left of that, to the west of that, immediately to the west, you're dropping off a cliff and into a crevasse, and what you've got is a cave opening. Now somebody may say, well, that's not a cave, that's one of those volcanic vents. Okay. Vent, cave, take it like you want it. It's a hole in the side of that cliff wall. But immediately in front of that hole in the side of the cliff wall, what you've got is a very rectangular area that looks like it was carved out. Caller, if you'll hang on, we'll get to you right after this break. And folks, we will be back right after this.
You know, we've been around for a long time. Not quite this long, but a long time. And you have made that possible with your support of the Kevin Smith Show. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting the show. With your continued support, We hopefully will be around for a lot longer. Hey, don't look so surprised. I'm everywhere. And welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show, and we're talking about the ECTI Ranch and some amazing things that exist up on Mount Adams, which you can see from the ECTI Ranch. The telephone lines are open. We're on final approach, and we have a caller on hold, so let's go to the telephone. Caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
This is Charlotte from Silver Spring.
Hello, Charlotte.
Hello. Is Mount Lassen very near Mount Adams? Because there was an interesting incident recorded in December 1946 by two prospectors who went caving in Mount Lassen. And it could be dismissed as a kind of sci-fi story, but some of their details do remind me of some of the things that contactees said. Mm-hmm. They encountered three men, looked to be about 50 or a little younger, ordinary clothing, but their shoes were strange, their soles were so thick, they gave the impression of being made of wood. They didn't seem very friendly, and they took them, the two prospectors, into a machine, a vehicle that went very fast through the tunnel, and it was powered by two magnets that were sort of back to back. And they described it, and they pulled a kind of lever, and it went very, very quickly. And,
I don't
then they
know.
encountered someone, another entity, another human, looking person who killed them. And he told the prospectors that he was lucky that he had found them because those were Horlocks. They were going to take them, and who knows what. But I don't know whether it's true or not. But you don't know what's in the mountains, I suppose.
Well, yeah. I don't know if this mountain you mentioned is near Mount Adams or not.
It's in the Cascade in Washington. I don't know whether it's in California. Yeah, it's in Northern California, Mount Lassen. Okay.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be near this.
Yeah, I've seen this story in different places, and the person telling it gives a lot of details about prospecting and so on, and doesn't, and also some details about the entities he's encountered that remind me of other encounters with the contactees have had.
Well, I'll tell you something. I don't know whether you're able to see the show tonight, but this you can always go over to UFO Daily Sightings. Now, that changes daily, so you need to get over there tonight if you want to see these pictures. He may take them off of there and put something else up tomorrow. But UFOsightingsdaily.com. And he's got these pictures up there. All right, now, let me tell you. If I was up in the mountains, and let's say I was with Jerry Wills, and we came upon this big cave opening, I probably would walk in there with Jerry. No big deal. However, if we came upon this, I'm not going in. And the reason is this large rectangular, it's cut out of the lava here. It's exactly rectangular, and it's been cut into this lava, and it's full of water. To me, that says somebody's here, or has been, and I'm not going in.
The cave that the two prospectors went into also, it didn't seem like a normal cave. As they went more deeply into it, it was smoothed out as if it had been done many, very ancient times. It just seemed to have been deliberately tunneled out and smoothed over and polished.
Well, something that looks natural, I don't mind going in it. If it looks like someone has been here and may be home now, look, I'm not Goldilocks, and I'm not going in and try all the different bowls of soup. You know what I mean? I mean, if there's somebody home, they can just live in peace, and I'm going on down the road. I'm not going in. Would you go in?
I suppose it would depend.
Doesn't depend for me. If it looks like there's been some human-type improvement made to the area, I assume somebody's home.
I wouldn't go in alone.
Yeah. I'm not going in, period. Nah. We'll let Jerry do that. Jerry's not afraid of those things, and he goes in and gets film and stuff like it, gets video and talks about it, and he's all happy and everything, and that's what he does.
I'd like to know what he would think about that story then.
Well, I don't know. I'll call Jerry tomorrow, and I've tried not to call Jerry too much here lately because he's all tied up with the renovations on his new mobile studio. And he's got deadlines he's got to meet. And so I check in and just say, how's it going, once in a while. But I've tried not to, bug him too much because he's busy. But I'll call him tomorrow and send these pictures to him and see what he's got to say about that. Might be something he might want to go look at. Yeah. All right. Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for the call.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye. We have time for one quick call. One very quick call if you call right at this moment. And then we're going to be out of time. So, don't sit around and think about it. If you want to call, it's 623-444-5889. Regardless of whether this is the base from which the UFOs are coming that people are seeing at the ECTI ranch? I mean, it might be, but even if it's not, Scott has discovered something really cool here. He's discovered something really anomalous, and I'm not sure what it is. It's mysterious. I mean, it's not just a geological shape. You do have that shape of the teardrop, and then the bow waves around it. You've got that. That could be geologically formed, but why is a big portion of that blurry? And it hasn't been artificially blurred, you can tell. It's just part of it is blurry in the camera, and the rest of the area around that is in sharp detail. Why is that? That sort of sounds like some kind of energy happening there. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it sounds like it could be. It looks like it could be. And then that rectangular pool of water. It's not sort of rectangular, folks. I mean, if you took a straight edge on a piece of paper and used the straight edge to draw a perfectly square block. Now, if you were to cut that same thing out of the stone, perfectly square, or it appears to be perfectly square. By appear to be, I mean from the angle, it may be a rectangle and a little bit longer one direction because we're at an angle on a crevasse. But the thing has perfect 90-degree angles and straight edges. That means somebody did it. Who? When? Why? And it's right, I mean, you step right out of that pool into the side of the mountain, right into the cave. What's the deal here? And this is up almost at the top of Mount Adams. So you put all of that together, and what you've got is an extremely anomalous looking area. And so I will say again that, you know, even if this turns out that it's not the base for these UFOs, it's a major find. It's a great mystery, and it should be explored by someone like Jerry Wills, our associate host here. All right, I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. I want to thank those of you who called, and keep your fingers crossed about the K-Pods. We're going to work on it here right now and see what happens. My friends call me Steel Eye. My enemies do too. You can call me whatever you'd like to call me. Just keep coming back again and again and again. Until next time, so long, everybody.